Actually, I had 100% planned on being here Wednesday night. Had everything ready, game, PowerPoint message, and everything, and then things just got kind of messed up, and we couldn't be here. So I kind of wanted to share with you guys what the message I had Wednesday night, and this helped me a lot. I'll be really honest. So, like, studying this out, this was something that God had shown me kind of in study. And then I kind of studied this out for you guys. And I felt like it's something that we all really could need. But, and it's talking about, like, quiet time. Now, I know, like, some of you guys, you're just like, okay, this again. But one of the things is, like, we have to kind of ask the questions, like, do we really understand what quiet time is with God? We hear about it, like Todd talks about it, I talk about it. You know, you've heard like teachers all throughout your life talk about having a quiet time with God, having like a devotional time with God or something like that. But we talk about it and we encourage it, but we don't really define it. You know, we just kind of throw that phrase out there at you and we're just like, man, I hope you get that. I hope you figure that out. And we really need to understand kind of like what that is in our lives. Because this is one of the most important things that you are ever going to do in your Christian life. It is going to, and I don't want to be like over dramatic sounding, but like this is the thing that like can make you or break you as a Christian. You know, if you do not have a personal like quiet time with God, I don't think can really thrive as a Christian. And I'm not just saying that from some like position up here on the stage, like looking down at you guys or anything like that. I know this personally. I've gotten in ruts before where I didn't have that personal time with him, that quiet time away from him. And I saw what it did to my own faith. I saw how it affected me. And if you guys are being honest with yourselves, when you're not having that time with God, it affects you and your Christianity, your faith too. You drift, you get further away. It gets easier to make bad decisions or to make decisions that are just not really godly decisions. But that quiet time can really, it makes or breaks your faith. I know too many people who have said, it's like, yeah, well, you know, I get my verse of the day in the mornings and I read that, and you know, I'll say a prayer or two here or there throughout the day. And they think that that's Christianity, and I'm sorry, but nowhere in like the Book of Acts, nowhere in like any of the early Christian writings do we see that I'm doing enough is acceptable, or it's even really a reality. Because anytime we say that we're doing enough, man, we're missing the mark. We're completely missing the mark. So in Matthew 14, we see there that John the Baptist has just been killed. So John the Baptist, he is, this is not just Jesus' friend. It's not just his partner in ministry, but this is his cousin. So there was a lot of connection there. There was a lot of care there. Jesus thought very highly of John the Baptist. He loved him deeply, and John the Baptist had just been beheaded, and so that they could use his head actually as a trophy. And it was, it's a weird story. It's a rough story, but he had just been killed. And when the news got back to Jesus, in verse 13 is the first verse that we're going to read this morning. It says that when Jesus heard of it, talking about John the Baptist being killed, it said he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. So here, Jesus was like experiencing this gut-wrenching grief. This struggle. He was going through a very hard time. And his first reaction was to post about it on Facebook. Okay, good. Some of y'all are with me. All right. No, his first reaction was to go and to scream at all the crowds that were listening about what was going on. No, his first reaction was to separate himself from the group and go be by himself. Not damagingly. He didn't look at everybody and was like, I don't need any of y'all. And then ran off the other direction. He wanted to be apart from the crowd, not so that he could be alone, but so that he could be with God better. And when he went to go do this, he needed this time. He needed this quiet time with God. We live in a really loud society. we don't know quite what it's like to be still or truly like be quiet. Alicia makes fun of us a lot because we'll be sitting on the couch and like, and this is almost a direct quote from her. We don't know what it's like to be still or quiet, because when we're sitting on the couch watching TV, which is not a quiet activity, it's not right, you know, we're sitting there playing with our phones or playing a game on the computer, or a Switch or something like that. We're doing something. We can't be still. We can't be quiet. We have to have constant. We have what's the word I'm trying to think of? Activities and stimulants. Yeah, stimulants. We have to have a constant stimulant. The phone, social media, a game, an article to read, a video to watch, or something like that. That's like and I love you, and I'm not trying to be like, we'll be watching TV, and all of a sudden I can't hear the TV because she's listening to watching a video on her phone, and like it's like, well, do you mean to pause this? No, I'm just watching this, and we have to have these constant stimulants. So we can't just be quiet. We have to find this time to be able to get away and be quiet, though. Get away and be alone with God. And one of the reasons that we don't like to do this, and one of the reasons that we don't, that we kind of maybe shy away from this, is because maybe we've tried it before and we struggle with it. Another thing is, like, it can kind of be uncomfortable at first. Man, when you try, and because society and everything around us is so loud and so just stimulating, and just there's you know, pictures and videos and just everything, you know, we ingest constantly media and all kinds of different things, that for us to take a step back and just be silent is uncomfortable.
Talk.
See? Thank you. Just a little bit of silence there, and like everybody in the room was like, is he having a stroke? What's going on? And like Caitlin couldn't even stand it. She's like, say something, okay? You know, it's uncomfortable to sit back and be quiet. So when we try and have these times alone with God, we sit back and we try and listen. We try and be open to God, but our mind wanders to something we saw or something we read. Our mind wanders to, I wonder if that person texted me back, or, you know, we hear a ding on our phone and we're like, notification, gotta check that, because if you don't check it in 5 seconds, it goes away. You know, we have these constant things that interrupt us, and sometimes it's just us, and we struggle with that time of just silence, just quiet. And I'm that way. I struggle with quiet. I struggle with focus. I was praying this morning, and I would get about 2-3 sentences in, and then I would start thinking about something else, and not even bad stuff. It was like church stuff. It had stuff to do with you guys, and I would begin to drift from God into ministry stuff, and I'm like, okay, got to come back. I've got to get my attention again, and I've got to come back to this. So this is not something that, like, I think that you guys are going to, like, we're going to leave out of here today and y'all go about, man, Josh was so good today. I'm going to go home and I'm going to make this a habit in my life every day, and then you're going to do it as soon as you get home, and it's going to be smooth and amazing and great, and it's going to be this lifelong habit. I hope that's the case, but it's going to take work because of how we are, how society is, how each one of us struggles with just noise. You know, one of the things like Alicia has started doing is, and I'm not picking on her. She's actually better at this than I am, in some ways. But like, she actually will play, like sounds as we're trying to go to sleep. If she can't sleep, she'll try and play that. Hello, ma'am. Be quiet. I just caught you up. That's it. Okay, so that's where we're at in the lesson. So, but like, she'll play like white noise, like kind of stuff, like rain, ocean, stuff like that.
I have to play music.
Yeah, and that's something too. I used to have the TV on. Like a long time ago, like I used to have the TV on, and I would put it on a sleep timer, and then just crash at some point, and then the TV would cut itself off. But we have to have that kind of noise and stuff. So, you know, we have to get to this place where we can be silent, where we can be quiet. And it's not always just our fault. And I don't want you guys to think that like I'm just like, Jude, you can't do this and it's all on you. All right. It's because there's times when we start to try and have this quiet time with God and somebody else interrupts us, right? We'll be trying to read. I'll be studying downstairs in my office, and Alicia will start yelling about something, and not like angry, like she'll be like, "Hey, can you do this or something?" She's pretty good when I'm in my office. Or she'll come downstairs. Because like our laundry room's over beside my office. She'll come downstairs to do laundry, and I'm like studying, and she'll come in and she'll sit down and we'll talk, and it interrupts it, and or somebody will call. Todd has got the worst timing of any human being I know. It's like if I sit down at my desk and I open up my Bible and I begin to read, Todd calls, and then I have to get that. So people will interrupt it. We see in the story that the exact same thing happened to Jesus. Is he went away to be by himself, and it said that when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. So when the people heard that it's like, oh, Jesus is up there on that hill, let's go to him. And they went to him, and it goes on to say, and it goes on to talk about that Jesus had compassion on them. He saw them. He saw they had a need. They wanted to see him. They wanted to hear from him. And actually in this time, this is when he did the feeding of the 5,000. God doesn't waste anything. Even though Jesus was struggling and he was going through grief and he needed this quiet time with God, God was not going to waste this time. So he worked this amazing miracle among these 5,000 men, probably 10, 15,000 people. And it shows us that we can try and get away. We can try and have that quiet time, and people interrupt us. For those of you guys that have siblings, how many times do you try and do something and you have a sibling interrupt you? Woo, man, that one was like, there was no thought process on that. I was like, interrupt you. Yeah, so it happens. With siblings especially, because with siblings, there's no boundaries, right? It's like you just wake up and it's like the other one's job to annoy you in a lot of situations. I'm so glad I'm an old child. But there is that part of it. And it seems like it's like, you're trying to get closer to God. And then they come in and then they're like, I'm not touching you. 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 What are you doing? Oh, man. Yeah. I actually do that to Alicia Simon. I know how angry she gets at me. So I can't imagine. And all right, here's a side note, okay? Because a lot of y'all, there's not a single only child in here, right? Yeah. Oh, well, you and me, yeah. Okay, so if you ever see one of your siblings reading the Bible or praying or something like that, don't mess with them. Let them do it, okay? But people interrupt us. People mess it up, and when that happens, most of the time, if not all the time, when that happens, we just abandon it, right? It's like, man, Jude is jacking me up. I'm done. God was real. He wouldn't let him be so annoying. We kind of treat it like that. That like, as soon as that time is interrupted, we're just done for the day. It's like, well, I tried. God knows. I'm not doing anything else. But in Matthew 14, 22 and 23, it talks about, it says this, and it says, and straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side. And while he sent the multitudes away, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. He didn't give up. He knew how important this was. So Jesus was not just seeking God. Jesus was God, and he even knew how important this time with the Father was. And if he needed this time in his time of grief, in his time of struggle, in his daily life, how much more do we need that time? This is Jesus giving us an amazing example of how we need that time alone with God every day. Quiet time. Time without the noise. Time without the distractions. In the Old Testament, it talks about how God spoke to somebody in a still, quiet voice. When you've got the TV cranked up, when you've got your headphones in blaring, sometimes it can be hard to hear that quiet voice. And you have to figure out what works for you. Whether you go outside, maybe you walk, you hike, you go sit in the front yard. It's springtime now. You can do that, and people won't look at you strange. Maybe it's you just shut your door, set everything on the other side of the room, mute everything, and just lay on your bed. Maybe it's the Bible talks about a prayer closet. Maybe it's literally you go in your closet if you can fit in it. Maybe it's whatever. You know your life. You know where the space is and where the places that you can get quiet are, even if you don't do it. I know exactly where I can go. I know the places I can go. I know the things that I can do. Whether I do them or not, I know where I can be alone with God. So we have to realize that, like, Jesus made it clear by going back to this after he fed the 5,000, that this time we don't need to give up on it. We don't need to abandon that quiet time with God. We need to embrace it more and more. It was important to him, so he made time for it. And this is one of the most this is one of the biggest things that, and if you get anything out of this morning, there's two things I want you to understand. There's two things I want you to get. Your time alone with God will make you and break you as a Christian, period. If you're not spending that time with him, you're not going to go very far. You're not going to go very far. And the second thing is if it's important to you, you're going to make time for it. We make time for all kinds of stuff, and we make excuses for the things that aren't as important to us. And like I said, I'm not doing this from like some lofty, ultra spiritual position. I've struggled with this too, and it shows me my priorities, and it shows me how jacked up my priorities can be. So if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. You won't, there'll always be an excuse. There'll always be an annoying sibling. There'll always be a loud noise. There'll always be another video you want to watch. Social media is set up to keep you watching videos. There will always be something to distract you or get your attention. But if this is important to you, you will make time for it. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." This was one of Alicia's dad's favorite verses, and it's become one of mine. This was something that I try and keep in mind, that you cannot replace that quiet time with him just by sitting back and being still. And it is. If you want to make that decision, if you want to make that commitment today, that you're going to work on this, that you're going to try and incorporate this more into your life, you're going to try and do better about this, it's going to take work. Because I promise you, if you try and do this evening, if you're like, yes, I'm going to do this, and you make that commitment to do this today, the second that you shut the phone off, you shut your door, you walk outside to do this, someone's going to come running up to you. Someone's going to call. Someone's going to yell for you. Something's going to happen to distract you. Don't give up. Just sit back and be still. And just simply know that he's God. And sit back and think about what God's done for you. Think about how he has saved you. Think about the things that he has brought you out of. He's brought you through. Meditate on a verse. Even if you don't know the verse by heart, write a verse down on an index card or something, and don't do it on your phone, because you know what your phone does? It has notifications and it'll distract you. You'll be doing really good for 5 seconds, and then someone will message you. Write it down on something and just read the verse and think about that verse. Actually consider what it's saying. But most of all, just think about how good he is. Think about just how great God is. God is worthy of all of our praise, all of our worship. And we fail in this area a lot when it comes to worshiping God, when it comes to praising Him, just for who He is. We like to worship Him and we like to praise Him for stuff He's done for us. You know, we like to talk about how great He is because He's done something for us. But how often do we sit back and we just say, man, thank you for how good you are. Thank you for how great you are. Not because of what's happened in my life, not because of what you've done for me, but just simply because of who you are. Because God's good regardless of our circumstances. If nothing good ever happens to me again in my life, man, God has still been so much better to me than I deserve. So just sit back, be still, and just know and think about how good He is. And this will breathe life into your Christian life, into your faith, like you've never experienced. I think that there's a lot of you guys that are right on the edge of really something great. I think that this ministry is right on the edge of blowing up and of really something great. But it's going to take you guys getting really serious about your relationship with God. Not because of me or Alicia or Todd or Marie or anybody else, but because He is worth it. He's worth it to you. If you're a Christian, He saved you from hell, from eternal punishment. He's worth setting the phone down. He's worth turning the TV off. He's worth some time alone with Him. And if we can get a hold of that and realize that He has saved us just simply because He loves us that much, man, it will change everything. It'll change everything about us as a ministry, but most importantly, it's going to change everything about you guys as individuals. Our faith should not be, church should just be an add-on to our faith. Church should just be something that we, church is just a place for us to come and worship Him, to show in public what we're doing in private. That's what I'm trying to say. Church should be a place where we get to experience together what we're dealing with in private. It shouldn't be the entirety of our faith. And I want you guys to experience that. I want you guys to see that. And out of that, I want to see souls saved. Guys, I'm not okay seeing so many people go to hell. Because they are. We're surrounded by people every day that are not going to heaven. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with knowing that there's people that have come through not just the door of the church, but this door right here, that don't know Jesus. And I'm not okay thinking about the fact that there are people in this room now, there's people in this room last Wednesday, there's going to be people in this room the upcoming Wednesday that frankly are just skating through their faith. It's time to get serious. Man, it's time to just let go and just get serious about our faith. And that's been my prayer all week, and it's going to continue to be my prayer daily. And I hope that you guys will join me in that. And you'll get fired up more than you've ever been. You'll get excited about God, about loving Him, knowing Him better. But that's about all I have this morning. Alicia, do you